started again. The next talk is from Frosina, who's going to be speaking to, these folks in the back. Okay, so Frosina is going to be speaking to balancing traditional and digital learning resources in college and high school classrooms.
So when we started initially, we were thinking to take a look at all three levels, like K-12, college, and universities. So we wanted to ask the high school teachers as well how they're using their resources. And then how about the college teachers? So the information that I'm going to share is not the proper survey results, but I believe it brings what we all have heard in the past and what we all have been thinking. So the first how do educators decide what learning resources to use? Because it is a little bit very hard these days when we have 50 books on each field or specific line of field to choose from, and options are good, but not if we have so many. And then are they really playing the central role in students' learning? So it's not just having the textbook just for the course that I have to have some learning resources, but are they using it? And most importantly, how they actually engage with it. So this is a cartoon that probably you've seen it. And I very, very often refer to that one because I'm always afraid that I'm actually doing what they're doing. I'm teaching, but are students actually learning? So let's begin when I started asking my questions with my colleagues, and I wanted to ask them usually about the difference between traditional textbooks, like a paper one and the digital one, but quickly turned this into open textbook and free textbook into publisher textbooks. Again, these are not proper survey results, but it does give an idea. At the moment, with our college, this is the spread of what kind of resources, textbook resources we use. And are we requiring the textbook, or we recommend only the textbook? Then what about the assessments? So at the moment, most of the courses share a little percent of my Open Math, Mobius, and publisher textbooks, where we actually use their assessment platform for assessing students, which means that students will have to actually purchase the book in order to get those assignments. And why, when asked why do you use a particular textbook resources, like with the open textbook, you have 3 or 4 available textbooks that are decent. I can play with them, I can edit, I can start with one chapter from one and then another chapter from another one, and they are free, right? On the other side, when I ask the people who are using the actual publisher textbooks, why do you use them? It was the content was great, the flow of the topics, the content is vetted, the questions, big question bank as well. One of the teachers said the book is magical. Some people also have self-created resources, which requires a lot of time on our end. And I'm very, very cautious when we have our colleagues deciding and going, okay, I'm going to use my notes, or I'm going to make my handouts. I know they don't know even how much work is going to become later on, because that is really, really big, a long road to go. I use my personal teaching resources. Then when I ask, how do you think that the students are using? So we have students do not engage with the book if it's not assigned as a homework or as a reading assignment or something like that. So it's very hard for us to make students read the book. Many students primarily use it before the exams, and I believe this is very similar to what Miroslav shared earlier. Faculty sometimes assign the reading assignments, and one of my colleagues said we have to kind of feel almost feels like forcing students to read by giving them, because these days we find that the focus is not there or cannot stay for a longer time. Is that the new generation, the modernization of the education at this time compared to what we had in the past? I don't know. What are the biggest challenges when I asked about different platform or different types of textbooks. For the publisher textbooks, we had a cost for students. Some of the teachers are very uncomfortable with that. I don't know even that some institution will say, oh, the textbook price shouldn't be per semester with some amount. I cannot I cannot edit the textbook. So I can maybe shuffle the chapters and assign, go to chapter 7 and then chapter 3. With open source, I can actually supplement and add my own notes in between, or add my own paragraph in between in the middle of the lesson. So that is not with the publishers. Lack of open-ended or exploratory learning. It was interesting for this comment because somehow they felt that there is no option or no opportunity for deeper learning in the actual textbook. When I went with the same question for teachers who are using the open textbook, and we do have teachers who use both depending on the course. So it's not that we have, you know, I'm only for open textbooks or I'm only for publisher textbooks. So we have a mixture, and that came up. It came that it was, it depends on the actual course. So I can find many open textbooks for the fundamental math. I can supplement my notes, but when we go to the higher level statistical courses or higher level math courses, I'm actually needing a little bit more kind of beefy material. Lack of quality control or vetting the questions. Like we have open platforms with questions. There are billions of questions inside. There is a way how we can rank them and see how many questions were actually used by, or the questions that were used by most institutions or more courses and teachers. But again, we don't have that vetted properly by, as publishers usually do with outside before a textbook is actually published. And then when we also go with the open textbook, and I'm included there as well, I find that there is a lot of work done by the actual teacher. And if I'm not a coder, or if I'm not very handy with technology, I may actually not be successful, and the resources become bad or not used for students afterwards. So that was another comment about greater instructor effort. So it comes on my shoulders. I do want to bring one from a couple of years ago. With another teacher from Fleming College, Tracy Finley, we attempted to have a survey of all college teachers in Ontario, and we asked, one of the question was asked, how much influence do you have over resources? And it seems that most college teachers actually do have power, some kind of authority to decide about the textbooks. But I was also interested that there was some teachers who actually don't have that freedom of choice still. And then at the end of the college slides, I do want to press kind of mention again about that we use both depending on the course or depending on the material. We still have troubles with students' engagement. Cost remains the biggest trouble, as we all know. And what is the future holding? Probably some type of hybrid approach and combining both areas. So now I'm going to turn it to high schools, because with Miroslav-Lovric, we made a small questionnaire. Again, we send it to people that we have a link or an email address with high school teachers. Before I get to the actual, you know, what kind of resources you use, I do want to bring the type of teachers who answered, or the teachers who, what are they actually teaching in school? So most of them are teaching towards grade 12, and how many years of experience. We're having more of the more senior teachers. So the following results are coming from them. Which of the following resources do you most commonly use in your math classes? I was surprised. Usually what we have open textbooks in college and maybe at universities, open textbooks are very low on in high school. And I was also surprised about the worksheets. Like many teachers rely on their own material or maybe somebody else's material or from previous delivery of the course. We still have a fair amount of textbooks and online eBooks, but and for the online platform, something that also Miroslav mentioned earlier, Desmos and Khan Academy, that was big. It was interesting how much more the high school teachers use that. And I don't have, it may happen in college stream, but at the college level, but I'm not sure that we use that as much as I've seen at university level or K-12. The next question, what types of resources would be most helpful, do you think, for your students? Digital resources were the biggest there. So we ask students to get engaged in a digital form through apps, through Desmos, through Khan Academy, watching videos. We're not coming back to the textbooks, actually. Which type of textbooks do you mostly use? For the next slides, I may go a little bit faster because it is the questions and the raw numbers. The teachers would still use a combination of both digital or physical textbooks. What type of textbooks you primarily assign for students? Similar pattern, a little bit more on the combination, but similar pattern with students as well. What are the main challenges using a physical textbook? I was expecting to be, yeah, it's heavy. I don't have enough, enough items on the shelves to assign to each student. I remember my kids are a little bit older now, but I remember that each kid actually was able to get one textbook and use it at home as well. What are the main challenges you face with using online? Students do not have consistent. So these are things that are happening. We know them and it's staying there and it's still repeating. Difficult to navigate even, and I find that that's because I find that with us, for example, when we have a student going through multiple courses, each course has a different platform, then there is another learning how to manipulate, how to navigate curve to learn about that. And technical issues, as we all know, that always happens, doesn't matter how much you do prep work, even sometimes the door is locked before you come, but so it is a little bit always there. To what extent have each resource that you have used help your students? Physical textbooks, interestingly, contributed least. With the other digital resources, we have those things, the apps and Desmos and again, different websites that are used. What do you believe is the primary purpose of a textbook? To serve as a resource for students to read and engage with. I'm almost blown away with that, 72%. So the main purpose is to engage the students, to help them learn, and somehow they don't use it. There is something wrong what we're doing if we cannot, like we want it, we know, but we still cannot get there. And another thing that happened to serve as a reference for students in future studies, this is 34%. So that's a big percentage in my mind. If we are thinking about, yeah, get the textbook, but you can later sell it for and recover some of the cost. But isn't that, I should have my book, like if it's worth for reading, I should be able, like I believe earlier in the chat, somebody mentioned I still have my book from 40 years ago from back home. I'm bringing a book from my back home, and I'm gonna show it a little bit in a couple of slides later. I still have my books, maybe because I'm a book person, but even in a digital form, we should still find some beauty in that. The summary of all the the survey answers. Teachers use a mix of resources. They rely on digital platforms. There are very, very low number of OpenStax. Textbooks have a value, but rarely they are the sole resource. And teachers prefer customized materials. At the college level, we also have a trouble with our math courses always have to be application, like they have to serve the department where we are delivering the math. It's no point of, if I teach them system of equations, it has to have an application connected to their mechanical field so they can see the value. Physical textbooks face challenges such as inconvenience and difficult updating. So that's another thing that came through the answers. And definitely I'm aware that a physical textbook cannot be changed. I cannot, even some books have a different letter using for the same thing. And if I go one chapter here, one chapter there, there is a change between the I and the J in complex numbers even for some textbooks. And I cannot change it if it's a publisher textbook. And it is a source of resource for high school teachers, but not a primary teaching tool. There is a strong demand for digital resources with many seeking interactive math also. Are we solving the problem or we are part of the problem? So at the very end, I do wanna mention the textbook of the future, Lehman Bryson. I don't know if you know him. He's a very good friend of mine in my past life. So he says, in regard of the textbook, the goodwill and the patience of the child have been called upon to an unreasonable degree, because he's referring to a textbook that has, like, I have one book. I brought it from back home. And unfortunately, I don't have a digital copy for the online attendees. But this is a geometry book. And as you can see, it has most writing. There are very little pictures in it. The student will have to read and imagine what kind of 2D, 3D shape. I have another one, I couldn't find it this morning, stereometry, which is all 3D, similar thing. So this was not that long ago. This was yesterday, but like it was my time when I was a student. But somehow we're leading, because now I have another beautiful textbook. Beautiful. I brought it because I really love that one, Discovering Geometry. And it's even the flow of how you're supposed to teach, not just for the students, but for the teachers. It's very, very helpful. So there is another one. I hope someday to see textbooks so beautifully printed, so admirably illustrated, so charmingly colored, so touched with humor and imagination, so legible, so intelligible, and so intelligent that children will keep their textbooks and make their companions for years afterwards. Fantastic to expect, but think what a difference it would make in education. This was 1936. So I don't know, are we there? Almost there. Or maybe we're gonna go even beyond fantastic for our education. And I think that was all. Yeah, thank you.